Hello everyone, how's it going? Dr. Incompetent here, and I'd like to do a complete beginner's guide to Stellaris, shall we? Now we're going to be playing at the end of July in 2024 on version Andromeda 3.12.5, and we are going to be using the vanilla version of Stellaris because I think most players will come into this without any DLC, and it's really the only way for us to have a uniform experience is just to do the base game. As an additional perk, it also reduces some of the complexity and choices that you have so that we can begin to understand the game even better. So Stellaris is a game that I've been playing and loving. I've played it a bunch on stream and just separate videos, and I've received such fantastic feedback from Stellaris players while streaming, helping me learn the game. In the YouTube comments, I've been watching tutorial videos, I've been reading about the game, so that I can learn as much as possible and enjoy the game myself. Now, in doing that, I feel like I have enough knowledge about the beginning portion of the game to help you get started. And what we're going to do in this complete beginner's guide is fire up a brand new game so you can play along with me or just watch to learn to play the game to see if this might be a kind of game that you want to play. I'm going to come at it from the angle that you've never played Stellaris before, or maybe just a little bit of it, and that maybe you've never even played a 4X game like Civilization or a grand space exploration kind of game, and this is your first experience. We're going to unpack the mystery of the controls, the UI, some basic tips and tricks, how to get going, get around, expand your empire, but we're not going to spoil anything. This is not a guide series that's about min-maxing and the perfect build order and the exact way to play where I just tell you exactly what to do, but rather I'm going to explain my thought process and I'm going to show you elements of the game as they emerge organically when we get to them in our playthrough so that you can learn to play the game, learn the fundamentals, and then make the choices that you would like with your own empire in Stellaris, because that's where the fun really comes together with it. How do you want to play the game? How do you want to make your legacy and, win the game, define your empire, etc. So I'm going to just click New Game right here. And once you click New Game, you're going to be given a list of species that you can start with on the left. Now, if you do have some DLC, your screen will look different. You'll have more stuff to choose from than me. But for everybody who's just playing on vanilla, this is what you get. And I really recommend you could take a look at some of these other ones, like, if you're really interested in just seeing what's out there, what's available with these different types of aliens. But as a new player, what I like to do and what I did do in my first couple of plays of the game was choose the United Nations of Earth. What's nice about choosing humans is you will start on Earth in our solar system, so it'll be easier to kind of orient yourself in the galaxy a bit just because there'll be some familiarity. But it also is fun to sort of play the game, at least your first time, knowing something about the species that you are, and treat it as if this was humanity's first exposure to space travel and meeting aliens and such, and you get to make decisions that shape how humanity interacts with new species and new events and finding, ancient civilizations and all sorts of different technologies and things out there. So when you select your species, you're going to get this pop up here, and by the way, the game is so fully customizable. I have zoomed in my UI so it's easier to see for you and myself because I'm playing on a 4K monitor, and you can really change the way that the game presents. There's a lot of cool options in the settings. And if you are humans, you're a representative democracy, and as you can see, if I mouse over this icon, you get a glimpse at how Paradox handles really, really complex games with pop-up tooltips that give you tons of transparency and maybe even have nested information inside of them. If you've ever played, Crusader Kings, for example, you are familiar with this. So what this means is I can just move my mouse over this icon, and then you'll notice that in the upper right corner of the tooltip box, and even the border itself kind of locks into place, and then there is a progress ring that fills in the upper right corner that means, okay, this tooltip is now locked, and I can now move my mouse onto the tooltip, and then certain elements, like where it says Democratic Election in teal that's underlined, I can mouse over that and get another tooltip. So I can kind of just explore this if there's any other nested information that I might need. So all this is telling you is the government type of our species. We're not going to pay too much attention to it right now because we're picking them, and it gives you some ideas of like what your group or your species is interested in ideologically, what motivates them, what animates them morally. So we know that they're into this beacon of liberty because they're democratic, which means we get extra unity, and we get a reduction to the empire size from population, which is really nice. And we also are idealistic, so everybody's happier, which is awesome. We're xenophiles, which we mean we like other species. We want to meet aliens, and it says we have increased opinions of them. We can't enslave entire species. We can't displace aliens. We have an extra envoy to interact with aliens, so we like outsiders. And we have this fanatic egalitarian trait, which means that we must be democratic, and we allow utopian living standards, which means we get this empire modifier of faction resource output plus 50% and specialist pop resource output plus 10%. Now, this is Stellaris. I'm going to be honest with you. The first time I played this game, my mind melted, and I didn't know heads or tails. I was seeing all kinds of numbers pop up, and as you hear me right now, just reading through these tooltips, you're getting information overload. Now, the information and all of this stuff is what makes the game fantastic, is how balanced it is, how all of these different pools of data kind of interact with each other. But right now, it's kind of probably flying over our head. And it should. Do not worry if you don't know what any of this stuff means. We don't have any context. We'll find out when we get going. As you learn more about the game, these benefits and negatives will make more sense to us. So we're going to just go ahead with United Nations of Earth, but I just want to tell you up front, do not feel like this game is just too much and I can't enjoy it, because what we're going to do with this guide is demystify the game so that you can enjoy it. And so much of the game works in a way that even if you don't know exactly what's going on, I personally still have fun exploring, and then when I need to start a new game, I know more, and I can do a better job the next time and make more informed, educated decisions. This is not a game that you learn instantaneously. In fact, this guide that we're doing here is going to be a guide series because there's just so much to talk about with Stellaris. Now, some other information that is useful to see here is that we live on Earth, which, yes, we know this, and it's a continental world, meaning that humans like continental worlds. We find them more habitable. So if we find in the galaxy other planets that are continental, these are ideal for our people to colonize and live on because we're used to that type of environment. Right here you could see humans are adaptive, nomadic, but they're also wasteful. So in general, good stuff in green, bad stuff in red. So let's fire it away and just say, okay, we're going to be humans. Now, in the game details screen right here, this is, again, entirely overwhelming. There's a bajillion settings, that's a technical term, that you can pick from. We're not going to mess with any of these, okay? Don't worry about how it says the game's not eligible for achievements. That's kind of like when you're competing against others, per se. I never play in a way that's eligible for achievements. I just play this way. And what we're going to do is just not change any of this and say play. Now it's going to be generating our map. And even though we'll all start in the Sol system, if you're picking a human like me, our games will be different. So what this means is there's going to be, a randomized galaxy. Some of the names are going to be familiar and the same, but a large bit of this will be randomized, so it's different each time you play. As you emerge into the game, boom, we see the game screen, and you're going to see there's information along the left side of the screen in a column, along the top of the screen in a ribbon, and then there's the outliner on the right side of the screen, and then there's all sorts of buttons and stuff down on the bottom of the screen as part of the UI. Then we see this beautiful galaxy, but do not worry, because we'll explain all of this. But the key is, as you see in the upper right, the game is paused. So right now, we can chill out. Stellaris is not a turn-based 4X like Civilization, but a real-time game. However, you can pause the game at any time and speed up and slow down time when you are playing the game. So whenever you want to make a decision, just push spacebar to pause the game. Generally, if something big happens in the pop-up window, like what you see on the screen here, the game will automatically pause for you, so you don't even have to worry about it. As you can see in the bottom center of the screen, it also says paused, and the name of the homeworld that we're in there, Sol, is in gold, meaning the game is paused, and we get that verified with the pause button in the upper right corner. So there's a little bit of story for us. Our ruler is Dolores, and she's always the ruler, at least in my experience, choosing the United Nations of Earth, as she starts this way. But every 10 years, there will be an election, and somebody else could become the ruler, because it's a democracy, representative democracy. So right here, the origin says, prosperous unification. Much has happened since modern humans first emerged in Africa some 200,000 years ago. Our kind spread rapidly across most of the globe, and soon the first civilizations took form. Scientific progress has been swift, though not without cost. Wars claimed millions of lives even before the atom was tamed, and the turmoil of the 21st century saw the mandate of the United Nations gradually expanded in an effort to create stability. By the early 22nd century, the supranational organization had become a de facto world government. Though some still resent the power wielded by the UN, as evidenced during the Mauritanian police action of '88, few can deny the technological breakthroughs that have come out of its sponsored research programs. With the recent completion of the first true starships, mankind is about to embark on a new era of space exploration. And that's what we're doing, which is exciting, and why I like to be the United Nations of Earth as a new player. All right, so we're going to click begin. Now, the first thing you're going to see is this advisor is going to pop up, because, Paradox knows this game is incredibly complicated, and there is this advisor that says, tell me everything. I could use some advice, or shut this thing down. Now, if it's indeed your first time playing, you might want to do the full tutorial. It's really helpful. It's what I did. You could also do some advice, which means every time you open a new section of the game, the advisor will pop up and give you a little bit of information on it. Or you could do what we're going to do, which is shut this thing down so that it's not interrupting us at every turn. It's super useful, but because I'm going to be explaining things as I understand them organically, it'll be intrusive if it's just like flying in there all the time. However, if you are maybe making your own save file after you watch this guide series, you might want to do the full tutorial, because it has some guided missions to just help you understand a few gameplay concepts that are nice. So I'm going to say no tutorial. And it's shut down. All right, so here we are looking at our solar system right here. And it's beautiful, right? There's our sun in the center, Sol. And as I zoom out, using the mouse wheel, zoom in and out, you can use WASD to kind of move the camera around. You can hold the middle mouse button as well and drag to move around. You can hold right-click to kind of tilt and pan the camera around to get different cool views of everything, however you want to look at the game. So I'm going to just tilt it so we're getting this top-down look, so it's kind of easy to see the orbits of all the planets. And let's talk about what we need to understand about the UI at this moment. So the first thing that I want to draw your attention to is the ribbon that runs along the top of the screen, which shows you, our civilization. We're the United Nations of Earth. And then all of these are different resources, and these icons correspond to the resources that you can see right there on our central game window. Like, for example, this diamond-looking shape that's red here is the minerals icon, and you could see that Luna right here is providing 5 minerals. So we've got energy credits on the far left. This is the de facto money in the game. You can use this to buy other things, and you get it from trade, and it is extremely nice if you want to make a short-term solution by just buying something. Like if you run out of alloys, and you can just buy it with money. You can throw money at the problem. Now, when I look at the energy credits, which is kind of a gold C with a lightning bolt through it, you'll notice that it says 100 plus 80. So what this means is I have 100 energy credits stored, and then I gain 80 every month. And if you have the time set fast, that might seem like a long time, but at the fastest speed, months will kind of come and go really quickly. Now, if you use the mouse to move over any of these resource icons on the top ribbon, you will get a very detailed breakdown of your monthly gain, how much you're producing, how much you're consuming, and some tips like how do you get more of these? I want more energy credits. You can see at the bottom of the tooltip, the game says, all right, well then build generator districts on your colonies, or use construction ships to build mining stations, or sell resources. So these are some suggestions by the game, and it says click to open the market. I'm going to click energy credits and open up the market. So you could see right here, the market has opened. And right now, when you start the game, there are these 4 resources that you can buy and sell, which are minerals, food, consumer goods, and alloys. And you can see on the left column, these are how expensive it would be to buy a certain quantity of these, and how much money we get from selling. So we're not going to do this right now because we really don't have very much money, but we will as we go. So instead, we're just going to close this. I'm just going to show you this is where the market is. So if you're like, oh, I'm short some alloys, just click on alloys right here, and you say, hey, I need 100, let's buy 125. It's going to cost me 676 energy credits. Unfortunately, I don't have that many, so I can't do that right now. So I'm going to close this. You can either push the X at the upper right of the market window, or just push escape on the keyboard. Now, one more thing I want to say about the energy credits before we move on. It does say I have 100 out of a stored capacity maximum of 50,000. Now, that might not seem like, you're like, well, I'm never going to reach that. You actually will. And you very well may reach your maximum how much of a resource you can store. If it's a sellable resource, you can sell it off, or you can buy some upgrades to expand your storage capacity. So just know that you can't have infinite of these things if it lists a limit, okay? Minerals are the next resource, and you use minerals as it says. You can see in the second portion of the tooltip, there's the information in white, and then there's the dash. And it says minerals cover the basic resources used to construct stations and planetary buildings. So pretty much everything that we're doing on the planet, when we're upgrading our planet, we're building more structures, or we're building research stations, mining stations within a system, that's going to take minerals to do that. And we also are going to use minerals to refine them into alloys, which are these purple bars, or consumer goods. So minerals are incredibly important. They're the building blocks of our civilization, of our empire. Next is food, and food is something that you need to grow your pops. So pops is kind of like an abbreviation that the game uses to represent units of your population. And just like if you've ever played a 4X before, or if you've not, the more people you have, the more workers you have. So this is good. It means you have more people to do labor, which means they can generate you more resources, etc. However, it takes more food to feed those people, and it grows your empire, which means it requires more resources to manage all of these people. There's more red tape, etc. So there's, as you're going to see, as we learn to play Stellaris, there's always a trade-off. You know, it's like if this number goes up, it's at the expense of something else, or if you need this to go up, you know, you might need to increase this over here, and you're trying to balance all of these factors that influence each other positively and negatively so that you can be growing and expanding and building. Next are consumer goods, and these make people happy. So they're gadgets, luxuries, and goods that you give to people, cell phones, iPods, all that stuff, that make people happy. So your people are going to want consumer goods to be living the good life. Next are alloys, these purple bars here, and these are fundamentally used to build ships if you want to make a large navy, and then star bases if you want to expand your empire. If I zoom out for a moment, and you can see, right now we don't really have anything explored at all. We just have some arrows that are pointing to some other systems, and if we want to find out about those systems, we need to explore them. And then if we want to claim that system as part of our empire, we need to build a starbase there to basically say this is ours and push our borders out around that system. We do have a starbase right here that you can see on Sol, and its icon looks like this. And it's got this, you know, inside the white hexagon here, you're going to see this kind of floating starbase. And the number right here is its military strength based on what structures it has in it to defend itself against an attack. So if we want more of those star bases, we're going to need alloys. And if we want more ships, we're going to need alloys as well. To the right of that is our influence. Influence is our political clout, and we're going to mainly be using this to build more star bases. So like if we want to claim a section of the galaxy, if we want to claim a region, we're going to need influence to do that, as well as the alloys to build the starbase. So we're using this currency to like expand our borders. You also will use influence for research agreements if you have friends among the other empires that you meet, and if you want to initiate war with someone and claim a system that they own and like, you know, go through all of that to invade, you're going to need influence to do that. Unity represents like how unified your people are together with the vision that you've built, how much agreement and harmony there is within your empire. And you use this to unlock new traditions, which we will talk about, but are basically benefits that kind of guide our playstyle and what choices we want to make. So for example, in a game like this, you can choose to conquer the galaxy, you can choose to be more peaceful and explore and do research and just build a prosperous civilization. However you want to go about trying to play your game, explore the universe, interact with your neighbors, you will be unlocking traditions that reflect the ideology that you're carrying with your empire that might help you do research faster or expand faster, etc. And we'll look at that as they come up. You also use Unity to recruit new leaders, political leaders, scientists, generals, things like that, admirals, and then to enact edicts, which we'll talk about later. The next icon, this microscope, is our research icon, and it is giving us an aggregate of all different phases of research. We have physics, society, and engineering research. So at any time, you're going to be researching like 3 different things in the beginning of the game, whether it has to do with physics or societal breakthroughs or engineering discoveries. And this is just telling us how many research points we're getting. Rare resources, we're not going to start with these, and we have to kind of build up and research even how to extract and use these things, but this is where this goes. Then there's empire size. So right now this doesn't really matter because our empire is very small. And while it's at or below 100, we don't have any effects. But once this gets bigger than 100, you're going to see things be affected and cost more or take longer because our empire is so big that it requires just more effort to do things and manage things. Then we have our population, which means we have 32 human population, and you get more population. This will obviously change, but it will also change if you have any aliens living in your systems. These numbers will reflect how many you have of each different species. Then there's our envoys. These are the people we send out to be our diplomats and talk to any aliens that we meet. We have 3 of them that we can use right now, but none of them are doing anything. Then there's our Starbase capacity. So what this means is you can't just build Starbases anywhere you want in the beginning of the game, because then you could just claim every system and you would win the game like without real resistance. The game kind of limits you on how many upgraded Starbases you can have. Now, it's worth noting, again, I'm kind of just going through these quickly to give you an overview, but it'll make more sense once we actually do these things and go into them. But I want to give you a kind of overview. Now, as Empire grows, you will, as you get more owned systems, you will have a different cap on how many Starbases you can have, and there's also technologies and traditions that you can research and unlock that will give you the ability to have more Starbases. This is a Starbase. This has been upgraded. Now, the final icon here is our naval capacity, which means we have 3 ships, but we can maintain 20 in our fleet. And the amount of ships we have obviously influences our ability to defend ourselves, but it also helps us generate influence through power projection. So, like, the more ships we have, the bigger our navy is. It's going to raise our military strength, and then when people see our fleet, they will have the impression that we are strong, and this will give us more clout in the galaxy because we have this big navy or whatever. So that is the final icon here. Now, over on the right, there are the time icons. You can pause the game, you can speed it up, and you can have it playing on speeds 1, 2, and 3, with 3 being the fastest. And right now, we're just going to keep it paused because there's still more to talk about. But before I discuss the left column and the outliner on the right and the bottom of the screen, I'm going to talk about these icons that have dropped down, these alerts, because these are actually telling us what to do now that we've started the game. Right away, if I click on any of these glowing icons, it's saying we're not researching anything in the physics field, we're not researching anything in the society branch, and we're not researching anything in the engineering domain. So we need to set these right away so that we're not wasting any time and any research doing nothing. So before we unpause the game, we want to set all of these things. Additionally, we have an open council position on our government that we want to fill, so we'll do that. We also have a bunch of other things that we want to kind of get in motion before we even start the game so that we're not wasting time, such as telling our construction ship and our science ship where to go. But just for the sake of moving from the top to the bottom, let's just clear out some of these icons. So I'm going to click on physics research, and it opens up the technology screen. Now you could see on the left column in the upper left of the screen, this is technology. You can click on these beakers to open this window that we see right here, or you could push F4 on your keyboard to get it. If you mouse over this left column, it'll tell you like what these different buttons are in more detail. And there's multiple ways to get to many different windows in the game. I can get to that window by just clicking on the beacons on the left, or by clicking on the notification pop-up. It'll take me right here. So right now, I'm not researching anything in physics. When you open up a new research window, you will get 3 random generated cards for research that are possibilities. and you get to choose what you research. Now, you can, by doing more in the game, by growing and expanding, there are ways to see more options to research, but for right now we get 3. So I can choose any of these physics research, and these are all going to be blue. And this number in the upper right tells you how many physics research units it's going to take to research this. And you are, as I mouse over right here with the microscope, you're getting research at different rates. So like I'm getting 18 physics research, but I'm actually getting slightly more engineering research just based on my starting setup. And you can understand like, okay, well, it's going to take, if I get 18 physics research every month and I mouse over this, it says it's going to take 196 months to research that. So that is not a short amount of time. It's a long time. But you're playing the long con in this game. This is a big game. It takes a long time. Decades, if not centuries, will pass as you are moving through the game. So don't worry about 196 months. Now, as we look at these different options, what we want to do is think about, before we make any selection, and this is what you should do when you start the game, who do I want to be? What kind of an empire do I want to run? What are my objectives? Like, how do I want to play the game? What's fun for me? What do I want to try to do? Do I want to try to build a navy with impressive ships that just goes around blowing up everyone I see? Or do I want to be science-based and do a lot of research and then just kind of stay within myself and be a more insular empire that expands and, can defend itself but isn't really aggressive and is just focusing on prosperity? Or do I want to meet a lot of aliens and be friends with everybody? And, what am I doing? So I think, at least me, this is the way I like to play the game, and I think it's helpful as a new player, to focus not on doing some really fast military aggressive style, but rather focus on research and prosperity, money, and expansion, and then let the other stuff come. One of the things you want to do in this game is kind of adapt to your situation, play to the strengths of your species and your map. Our decisions might change depending on who we have as neighbors, what resources are available near us, for example. But starting out without really that much information to guide our decision, I'm just going to go with the ideology that we're trying to be peaceful and do research and expand and grow and just kind of help humans travel throughout the stars. So to do that, what do I want? I could get the fusion reactor, which helps our ships move around. I could get improved deflectors, which is, more of a military form of research that gives us better shields on our ships. Or I could go for field modulation. Now this says modulated fields allow for increased production and improved energy yield. So this is telling me that I get more energy credits from technicians, 20% more, and 10% more energy from Starbase construction. So this is just going to make us more money, basically. And I like this a lot because I want money. I really enjoy having it. If, as a new player, if I make a mistake and I get behind on production of something, minerals, alloys, whatever it is, consumer goods, and I need them, I can just throw money at the problem and buy them. So this is something that is indicative of growing my empire in a peaceful way and making us prosperous. So I'm going to take field modulation, and when I click it, it gets selected right in here, and we're rocking. However, we have a minus 25% rate of research because we don't have a head of research. Remember how the game told us we need a council position? Right here in this empty silhouette is where we would put our head of research, which we need, but we don't have. So I'm going to click on this, and it opens up the government tab, which you could see there's a little arrow right here on the left, and it's the people, the 3 people, the second icon from the top on the left column. And I have a Minister of Defense and our President set. But I need a head of research and probably a head of state. So let's just click on the plus button on this empty silhouette for head of research, and it's going to tell us who is available right now to do this. And Salma right here is available to do that. Now, I could recruit somebody else if I don't want Salma doing this, or I could just have Salma do it. Currently, I have 1 out of 3 scientists selectable. So what this means is I can recruit 2 more scientists without going over my cap and being penalized. However, to recruit a scientist, it costs 100 unity. And I start the game with 0 unity, as you could see right here. And the cost of them is over in the right. So you could see, like, if I wanted to hire, this is the leader I currently have. She's already a scientist for us, Salma. And then down here are other recruitable leaders, and we could look at the different options. But on the right, it says it costs 100 unity right away to recruit them. And then there's a base upkeep of 2 unity per month to keep them employed. So I could pay them monthly unity cost because I have a surplus of 28 every month, but I can't pay this right now. So I could wait until I generate enough unity and then hire somebody, or I could just select Salma. Now, what's important to note is down here, this icon, these different icons, if you mouse over them, will tell you what benefits or negatives they have for certain roles that they can fulfill. So if she's the leader, the Empire gets this effect if she's a counselor, which research speed specifically for propulsion is 5% better, and she increases our chance of seeing propulsion research options because she has an expertise in propulsion. That's her field. So if I click her and make her the head of research, then you can see her right there. I'm going to close this window, just push escape, and I'm going to go back to the technology screen, and now you see that negative 25% penalty for physics is gone because we have a head of research. You could see Salma's picture right here filling in that, and then now we actually have a plus 2% bonus because we have a head of research. And again, you can mouse over anything to get a tooltip explaining what's going on. So we're making some pretty big strides. I know there's a lot of wind-up before we unpause the game, but this is how it is, and you'll get faster at this as you play, but we need to explain this stuff. We just appointed a head of research, and we decided to go into field modulation as our physics research. Now, if I close this, if I just push escape, you'll see we do have 2 more indicators, notifications here that are saying we need to pick a society research and an engineering research. And we can just click on these, or we can just go back to the technology tab and select them here. They are these empty rectangles that say select research. So let's select society. So here's our 3 options. It does tell you, by the way, that whenever we finish researching a technology, up to 3 new options will be generated. Now, it's up to 3 new options because in this case, I do believe, if I'm remembering this correctly, this gold border around planetary unification, yes, I am, okay. This means that this particular technology will be always here until we research it, so it's always something that we can get because I believe this is an artifact of us being humans. And it gives us a small amount of unity, so like every month we just get a 5% boost to unity, which is actually pretty good. And I'm going to research that one first because these 2 other jobs, or I'm sorry, not jobs, but research options for society, are space combat and ground defense planning. So these are both military things. Now, ground defense is if, we get sieged on the ground, but either way, these aren't things that I really want right now. I'd rather have this planetary unification. And you see this little badge over here in the upper right, the handshake, that means it's statecraft, and that means it's military theory. So they do a good job of like compartmentalizing these things into different categories to give you a feel for what you're doing. And we want the statecraft option, so I'll take it. So both of these are going to require 115 months to finish. And that's faster by the way, than the 196 that we saw before. That's because that number, that 196 months, was reflecting a 25% reduction from no head of research. But then, since we've appointed a head of research and got a 2% bonus, now this is the actual time. Then we're just going to select engineering down here to get this going. And you could see we have these two industry options and a propulsion option. Now remember, our person loves propulsion, but definitely what we want are one of these top two, because remember, the kind of plan that I'm going for is to just grow, explore, develop, research, not really fight. So these are good, and 0G refineries is very nice. It's going to give us a 10% mining station output boost. So wherever we build a mining station, we will get a 10% boost. Now, if you mouse over this, by the way, it does tell you it's not just this boost. We also get this building, which is the Nebula Refinery, and it tells you what it does. So the Nebula Refinery allows us to refine and extract minerals from dust clouds of a nebula. It costs 100 alloys and 36 base build time, but it has an upkeep of 2 energy credits, and it produces 10 minerals, which is really good. So I want this one, 0G refineries. So now we've selected all of our research options, and if I push escape, you'll see all of those indicators have disappeared. Now, another thing that I want to mention before we kind of work on this indicator is just as we look around, and I'm moving around here with WASD, you can see that this is a mining station. So when you see this kind of green bar with our Empire symbol on the left, and then in this hexagon on the right, there'll be some, icon that represents what it is. So this is the Starbase icon, for example, and then this little pick with the shovel means it's a mining station. So we already have mining stations. So once we research that, this is going to give us a 10% boost to the minerals that it's gathering right here. Now you see how on Mars, this is our Mars mining station, and it also has some hull points and some armor points, which are indicated by these bars that you see here also on the icon. And it's full up, costs 1 energy credit of upkeep. But this mineral right here, where it says we're getting 5 minerals, and it's being collected by my mining station. If the number is green, that means I'm actively getting those resources. But over here, for example, on Callisto, Europa, Io, these white numbers means that we are not gathering these resources. So we haven't yet even built up to go harvest those, and we need to do that. Well, we'll get there in a moment. I just wanted to show you a mining station to show you that we already have actually 1, 2, 3, 4 of these things built. And so that's going to give us a tremendous boost. Now, if you mouse over the mineral icon here, you can get even more information about just minerals in general, which is the testament to how useful the mouse over feature is. So now we're just going to take care of our last order of business, at least from the notifications, which is to fill the Minister of State position. So the Minister of State helps us with envoys, like when we meet aliens. First contact is also about meeting aliens, and then infiltration will be if we want to spy or do espionage. So I'm going to pick somebody to do this. And remember, we have no unity to hire a new person, but we already have Pedro Lopez, and he can become the Minister of State like that. And then we can mouse over this, and we could see what his benefit is. So he has architectural sense, which means that he gives us a minus 5% cost to making buildings and districts, and he improves the speed with which we build. So this is fantastic. So everybody that we've got appointed here now, all of our government positions that are open are available. And I'm just going to close this window. We've cleared now all of the indicators, and that's a great first step into understanding what we're going to be doing in the game. Now it's time to actually talk about the right portion of the screen. This left column, you can fiddle around and look through these, but we're going to kind of go through these as they emerge, and they're more like shortcuts to get to certain windows, but they're not what we need to see necessarily at the moment. Once you get more comfortable with the game, you might be jumping over here to, mess around with, edicts or society or whatever. But for now, I'm just going to leave that there and talk about the right portion of the screen, which is the outliner. This is kind of a great way to, at a glance, get information about what's going on and where you're doing work and what's doing work. So by default, it's on the government tab, and there's another tab which is our ships tab, which shows us all of our ships. We're going to keep on the government tab. So it tells us right here we've got Earth, and we only have one sector, and we have Earth as our only planet that we're living on right now. So this, we can collapse the Earth or the planet tab by clicking on it, but I'm going to keep Earth open. We have one military fleet right now that has 3 corvettes in it. How do I know that? I'm mousing over this. Remember, we have a capacity of up to 20 ships, military ships that we can have in our fleet, and 3 of them are corvettes, which is like the de facto fighting ship that you get when you start. Then we have some civilian ships. We have 2. You start with 1 construction ship and 1 science ship. And these ships are fundamental for exploring and expanding. So the science ship we're going to use to survey and explore systems and anomalies. And the construction ship we're going to use to build upgrades and starports and such. Currently, I'm not too worried about building more corvettes for our military. I'm fine with what we have. If I want to build more ships, I can select the shipyard. We only have 1, and it's down here at the bottom of the government tab on the outliner on the right. I could click on this, and it brings up our Starbase right here. This one right here is our shipyard. Now, looking at this window, there's a lot going on. I'm not going to talk about everything right now. I'm just going to show you that at the bottom of this, there are different tabs that we can open, and if you go to the far right, you can go to the shipyard, and this is where we could build more ships. And indeed, we actually want more ships right away. I have 100 alloys. I want to build a science ship immediately. So this is, your mileage may vary, and what you want to do may be different. But science ships, I like to think of, if you've ever played a 4X like Civilization before, as your scout. They're going to go around and explore what's out there. We have no knowledge of what's around us. The reason we can't see anything about what's happening beyond these green arrows is not necessarily because we don't have any information, but because we're just on the system map right now. And we need to push M to jump from the system map to the galaxy map. So here's the Sol system, and then push M, and we jump out to the galaxy map and can get more information about what's around us. But I wanted to be focusing just on the system right now and not show off the galaxy to avoid, too much information coming at you at once. But I want to be clear that you do have some more information that you can consult before you make decisions about where to explore by going out to the galaxy map itself. So we don't know where we want to expand to. We don't know where our friends or enemies or neighbors even are. And we need to immediately get as much information about the galaxy around us as possible. Now, we have 1 science ship that we can do that with, but I want another one. I like to have something like 3 science ships and 2 construction ships soon, but it's going to take a little bit for us to get there. If I click on science ship in the shipyard, I am now building one, and it goes into the queue. It's going to take 60 units of time to build this, but it'll also cost us 100 alloys, which immediately was spent from our reserve. You can see as soon as I clicked on this, it's gone. Now, if I click away from the ship, I get my resources back, full refund. I haven't even unpaused it, so no progress has been made on that. But I do want a science ship. And now we're building up a science ship for ourselves. So we have this going on. Now, you could see now in the outliner where it says shipyard, Sol Station has a little progress bar, and you can mouse over this and you can see what it's making. It's making a science ship. So this outliner on the right is a great way to see, like, what are you doing? And I always check it to make sure that I'm being industrious and that I don't have idle ships or planets unless I want them to be idle. So I can just kind of pay attention to what's going on. I'm going to push escape and close all of that. So now we have a ship being built. And then my next order of business is to start exploring. I'm going to select the science ship from the outliner over here, the UNS Copernicus. Once I select my science ship from the civilian ship tab of the outliner on the right, or I could even just go over to the just see ships if I don't want that much information. I could see my military ships and my civilian ships like that. Either way, it's up to you. In the bottom right, there's going to be a window that opens up that is my ship. Now, on that ship is Salma, the head of research. She's able to, like, through holographic communications like Emperor Palpatine enjoys, talk to people for government meetings and be on the ship. And you need a scientist on a science ship to do all of the things that you want with the science ship to do. And what that means is, for us, it's explore. Now, there's a whole bunch of buttons on this, and you can mouse over and explore them. But what we want to do is, with the science ship selected, I'm just going to right-click on this system right here. I don't know, I just picked one at random. And I'm going to tell it to move here. You can also just tell your ship to survey the system, which we probably want to happen, but we might want to see what's there first. So it's a little bit faster if you're manually doing this to move and then make a decision on whether or not you want to survey if time is an issue and you want to bounce around just moving to see what's there and then survey the juicy stuff so you can try to claim it right away. I'm going to move to it, and immediately you could see this yellow line has emerged. If I zoom in, it becomes more clear that this ship, my science ship, is going to move over to explore this system. Now they have a little orange arrow to the right, and if I mouse over this, it means you could see what they're doing. And they're going to be moving, once I pause the game, to over here. So this science ship is now doing something. The construction ship is doing 0 right now. It's got no jobs. So I'm going to select it, and I'm going to tell it to do something. What do I want it to do? Well, like I told you, we have some resources that are not being exploited, and we want these. So let's go ahead and get these minerals right here, for example. So if I right-click on Callisto, I can just say build a mining station. This will take 100 minerals to build it, but it's going to give me +3 minerals per month. Now, it will have an upkeep of 1 energy credit, but that is worth it. So I'm going to give it a job. And now my minerals are immediately spent, and it's going to move over to Callisto. You could see the yellow path for it, and it even has a progress bar of I'm going to go build this, and this will fill up as it's completing its task. I'm not automating any of my ships right now, which we'll talk about later. It's a great way to just kind of like delegate some of the responsibility of exploring and building. But at the beginning of the game, I like to micromanage my stuff a little bit more because I don't have as many ships and I want to make more nuanced decisions. So now I have something happening with my 2 ships, my science ship and my construction ship. I've done all of my research, and I'm getting ready almost to actually unpause the game. But the final thing that I'd like to do is just click on Earth. Now you can go to the outliner and click on Earth, or you could push the number 1 on your keyboard, or this button in the bottom left, to go into your planet screen. And this is going to show us our planet itself. Now, right now we're doing nothing on the planet, and we're going to have to go into this screen, but it's really deep, and we don't need to cover it entirely. We don't have time right now to do it. We'll talk about it at greater depth in a moment when we make a decision, but we could build some stuff here to continue developing our planet. We have 2 empty building slots that we can build on, and we have several district slots, which are right here, these empty squares, where we could, say, for example, build another city or some industrial districts or some mining districts or generator districts to make money, or agricultural districts if we want to get more food or something like that. But for the time being, like we said before, minerals are the building block of our empire, and we don't have any minerals to build anything. If I wanted to build something, for example, all of these cost minerals. If I wanted to even build a district, it costs minerals. So you could see on the right the cost of this jumping up. So I'm not going to do anything here. I'm just going to explain that that's our planet screen. We do want to do things, but we can't because we don't have enough resources. So I'm actually now pretty comfortable and ready to unpause the game. I'm just going to push spacebar, and we're moving along at normal speed. And as soon as this happens, you'll see our ships start to move. So the construction ship is going to go to Callisto, set up shop, and start building a mining station right here so we can get these resources. And then our science ship is going over to this system and is going to move here and check it out. It's still traveling. You can see it's still moving. And I'm going to pause the game. Now, why am I not able to see my science ship? That is because when we're on this screen, we're only seeing our local system. If we push M, we will go out and get more information about what's around us. So now we can see the system that we're heading to, and actually this icon is our science ship. This screen is the galaxy map. So before, if I push M, this is the system map, and it shows all of the hyperlinks that are around us, or the hyperlanes rather. But if I push M, now I could see what's going on. And right away, I see that I should have looked at this screen earlier, because this system itself isn't ultra interesting. What I want to focus on is this system and this system, Sirius and Yabhanir. And the reason is because they both have potentially habitable worlds. And actually, of these two, this is a continental world, which, like I explained at the very beginning, is what Earth is, so humans really like this. And one of the main things we're looking for as we try to grow our empire on this galaxy screen is nodes that have planets that we can colonize, because that's the key to making more and building more and getting stronger. Now, this galaxy screen that we're at, and we're going to, again, need to unpack and talk about this more as we go on, but if I zoom out, you can see this is the kind of donut-shaped galaxy that we're on right now, and it goes everywhere. There's 600 stars, I believe, in a medium galaxy map, so there's stars and systems everywhere. This blue line represents the political borders of Earth, and in fact, the United Nations of Earth. If we go to Sirius and we build a starport here, we will then make borders around this that will connect to the borders on Earth, because it is one jump away. So these systems are one node apart, so I can easily build here with minimal influence. If I try to build too far away from Earth, like if I wanted to build here, you see how there's two kind of like stops in between? Then it's going to cost more influence to build there. Also, I don't know what's going on here. It's unknown. The orange cloud represents that I know some about the neighboring systems, and the black cloud is like the fog of war, where I have no information, and I need to get more information. So what I want to do then is take my science ship and actually right-click on this and say Survey System, and now you can see it's going to go back to Earth and then go over here and start surveying the system. I cannot build anything here until it's fully surveyed. So we need to do that first, which is why science vessels are so important. I'm going to unpause the game and you're going to see my ship start to go over here and then back to Sirius. And as the game is moving, boop, construction complete. It told me right now the mining station is done. I'm going to say, okay, we got a pop-up telling us that. And you see how in the outliner, the construction ship is red with a ZZZ, meaning it's idle. It's not doing anything. I'm going to double-click on my construction ship, and then it'll zoom in to where it is, and I could give it some orders. And I could say, okay, good job doing that, but do something else. We already have 100 minerals now. See how fast we generate stuff. Let's go ahead and see if we can get the energy credits from this mining station by building a mining station on Io, and I'm going to do that. I'm just going to go ahead with my construction ship and make sure that I'm taking advantage of all the resources within our Sol system, and then push M to jump back out to the galaxy map and unpause it, and we're going to wait for our science ship to go over here. Okay, so at this point, we have also finished building our other science ship, and you can see it's right here and it's idle. Now, it's not doing anything, and if I wanted to survey the system, you'll see that I can't because it requires a scientist. So we need to recruit a scientist for this ship to be able to do its job. So I'm going to click on the empty leader slot, and I'm going to go and I'm going to get a new scientist. I now have enough Unity to actually hire another scientist, and I definitely want this as soon as possible. So let's see if we can find a scientist that's got a good trait. Look at this one. Yuan right here, she has survey speed plus 10%. And honestly, that's amazing. She's going to be really good at doing that job, which is surveying, which I want her to do. So you can look at all of their different characteristics. Her ethic is she's a xenophile, so she likes, meeting aliens. And she's 40 years old. Now that is important because as time passes, your people will die once they get into old age. So you do kind of want to consider that, but everybody's around that age. So I'm going to hire her right away. And if I click on hire leader, it says it will cost you 100 Unity now and 2 Unity per month. And I say yes. Boom. And here she is up here, and she says, let's discover new worlds and expand our frontiers. I couldn't agree more. And I'm going to then, with her science ship, the Einstein, selected, I'm going to right-click on this system, and I'm just going to use this option, survey system, and now she's going to come here, and we want to explore this world. Awesome. So I still have a ton to explain, and I'm going to unpack more and more details as we go. But let me give you some final pieces of information. Number one, you see these two resources on the galaxy map, the energy credits and the engineering research. Those are in white because I'm not mining them. Everything else that's being exploited in green does not show up on this map. So it's like a way at a glance from the galaxy screen to see what you still need to tap into in a system. Number two, on this planet, that Sirius III, this potentially habitable world, it tells you what biome it is. It's a continental world. And it also gives you a number 19, which is like the size of the planet. So 19 is actually quite large. Earth, by extension, is size 18, which means you can build 18 districts, I believe. So it's bigger than Earth, and it's continental. So that seems very exciting. This planet is same size as Earth, but it's savanna, meaning not as much, habitability perhaps for humans, but we'll see. And we need to survey it to find out exactly. The final bit is, notice these lines that connect the systems. These are the hyperlanes. And currently, they are the only way for us to get from one system to another. So this system right here, I could see it. It's unknown, but I can't get to it with the hyperlanes that I know currently. In fact, with what I can see of the hyperlanes around me, from the known entities that I have, the only connection to the outside world that I have is this node and this node. These are called choke points. If I were to fortify and defend these nodes right here, then all of these systems would be my inner sanctum or my interior, which you can't get to unless you blast your way through these choke points. So this is a great way to think about fortifying. Now, that being said, this is unknown. So if I go here, we might get information that completely destroys that assumption. But right now, it looks pretty interesting. But we won't know for sure until we start surveying more and more and uncover the fog of war. So that's why we built a science ship and hired a scientist with our first unity and our first set of alloys and minerals right away. Okay, everybody. I hope you have found this very first episode to be informative. Remember, there's so much to explain, but once you get it, once you get the basics, man, this game really opens up and is awesome. I think you're going to have a blast with this game as you understand more and more and can start to see what the game has to offer. Of course, I haven't covered everything, because I can't in just one episode. However, if you are a Stellaris veteran and you want to clarify any points that I've made, that would be awesome. What I'd like to do is just create a resource to get more and more people into the game and help people cross the threshold of the difficulty curve, which is quite high in this game, so that they can have fun with it. And if you know a lot about the game and you want to help new players, beautiful. Just keep in mind that the spirit of this guide is to not spoil anything about the game and to not be so granular about min-maxing that you overwhelm people who don't know anything about the game. We're trying to kind of like move bit by bit and understand just the very basics. So if you explain things or clear up mistakes that I've made, do that in a way that is easy to understand for new players, and I would appreciate that so much. Okay, everybody, I will check you in the next episode where we continue our play and grow the United Nations of Earth and push these blue borders around the galaxy. Thanks so much for watching. Take care.